why. Bring us your trade, new or older, paid off or not, and see why your car is worth more on the Motor Mile. Plus, with more inventory arriving daily, now is the time to shop the Motor Mile. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Experience the Motor Mile at 3 convenient locations: Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. For over 50 years, we've got Southwest Virginia covered. The all-new Motor Mile Chevrolet and Buick in Radford. Certified friendly staff. No games, no gimmicks. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at MotorMileChevroletBuick.com.
Midday hunger hitting you hard? Swing by Macadoo's for our $8.95 weekday lunch specials. Whether you're craving a classic crunch or something fresh, we've got you covered. Chicken tender basket featuring crispy golden tenders served with fries. The Macadoo's Chef Salad, a healthy, loaded favorite that will hit the spot. Hit back against your lunchtime hunger at Macadoo's with eats that won't break the bank.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Macadoo's.
We'll see you at the Do's.
Looking for everything happening in and around Central Virginia that used to be in the morning paper? Start your day at the LynchburgPortal.com. Get the latest news updates from Bill Trevero, plus up-to-date weather from VTRN's own in-house meteorologist, Matt Ferguson. So you're always in the know before you head out the door. Want to listen on the go? Stream classic hits on Rewind 103.9. Get breaking local news on WIQO, or catch the best sports talk and play-by-play on VTRN Sports, powered by ESPN Radio. All right from the portal. Looking to save? Check out insane radio deals for great local discounts, or explore local podcasts featuring the voices and stories that make our community special. Plus, connect with local businesses through the Lynchburg Business Alliance directory and stay in the loop on the latest events from Lynchburg Tourism. It's all right here. Local news, weather, sports, deals, and more at the LynchburgPortal.com. Your gateway to everything Lynchburg.
Former Virginia Tech coaching great Bud Foster, co-host of Foster and Friends, has always produced a winning philosophy.
What they said now doesn't mean anything. What we do now is going to make everything.
When it comes to life, the boardroom, or the football field, Bud knows there's a right way and a winning way. Listen to Foster and Friends with Bud and yours truly, Mac McDonald, on 93.3 FM Lynchburg and the VTRN Sports app.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
TJ, before we get into the real meat of today's edition of the Fast Lane, first of all, I am amazed that you were able to make it 2 places in one day. Saturday, you were over in Castle Coliseum first. TJ_Wilkerson 8 on the socials for documentation, and they may have even linked it up to Fast Lane Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And then he was over at
Go home to Bel Air
to see the Liberty Flames lose emphatically, 94-73. Flames barely got to the coveted magic number, whereas Western Kentucky was clearly, this is our new theory on winning basketball, by the way, 1-73, wins the game. Virginia defied that, by the way. More on them in a moment. But Liberty, with the loss, we will get to that. You asked some very poignant questions. But those are the other things that happened over the weekend. We could extend this to Duke, emphatic victory. I wouldn't call it emphatic, but they took advantage of Michigan and were part of the reason for Michigan not shooting the ball very well. NC State, North Carolina bouncing back from the loss to NC State with a nice victory. Florida State may be the team you don't want to face in ACC basketball action right now. They've gotten Virginia Tech. They got Clemson on the road as well. Another Saturday on the road for the Noles. Virginia barely escaped them. They've got Miami coming up. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, TJ. When I look, Duke's obviously the team you don't want to face because they're good. But you're talking about teams whose record doesn't indicate how dangerous they are. Florida State might be at the top of that list in college basketball.
Florida State is definitely the team to look out for come March. They're on a hot stretch right now. They're shooting the ball extremely well. Teams are having trouble keeping up with them.
No doubt. I mean, they really are. They're shooting well. Luke Laux has done a great job. he's really growing into that role as a coach. I'll say this. The ACC for a while, sadly, Syracuse may be another example of this, where they've struggled with promoting internal familiar program candidates. I'll tip my cap. Miami looks like they've got a good one in Jay Lucas. They looked really, really difficult to handle at John Paul Jones Arena this past Saturday. There's also the other stuff around that. That's going to be the bulk of what we discuss in a moment in the fast lane. But just from a raw X's and O's standpoint, Florida State looks good. Miami looks good. Your veteran programs, I think we've got a pretty solid idea of Pat Kelsey in Louisville, turning around the disaster from Kenny Payne. Duke with John Shire is a young coach that got promoted from within. He and they have been fantastic as well. At some point, they're going to break through, I would think, and make the Final Four again and win an NCAA title. I think it's a matter of when, not if. Not saying it'll happen this year. It's more balanced than ever. But all of those are things that happened in college basketball this weekend. And maybe that's the good encapsulation of that, TJ, because the big story, and this is why I went to Charlottesville this past Saturday, is it felt like it was a page turner for Virginia. They could finally turn the page from the Tony Bennett era to the Ryan Odom era. And Ryan Odom, to his ever-loving credit, has handled this transition with class and grace. He looks like a guy who is comfortable in his own skin as a coach. Maybe that's the experience. UMBC, yes, I know, snicker, because he was the coach when they beat Virginia as the first 16 seed to take down the 1. Then Utah State, and then VCU. But Ryan Odom clearly comfortable in himself to the point where he's embraced Tony Bennett. He's comfortable. He's doing it a different way. But he was a central part as well of Tony Bennett Day. And a lot of this goes into the Ryan Odom element, but a lot of it is also the fact that he's comfortable with himself, which allowed Tony Bennett to be such a shining part of that day. And it was cool to be up there for it. It was really cool to get the visuals, and we appreciate everybody who has retweeted it, shared it, however you've helped to spread the word at Fastlane, Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Shout out, by the way, to Trey's guy, Bryson Gordon. He's ours too, but he's on the morning warm-up Wednesdays, 7 to 8 a.m. with Trey Lyle and Ty Tracy on the VTRN Sports app. TJ just made a cameo today on that show. But Bryson Gordon was the one who did the searching, helped spread the word about our photos for Tony Bennett Court and how the names are interwoven into Tony Bennett Court. Like the Tony Bennett signature features names of players and coaches who've helped build this program. And that was one of the coolest things. And to hear Tony Bennett speak about it in a way that only he could.
And now I just want to say to the staff, the players, all those who were with me on this journey, you're what this is about. And when Ronnie told me they were going to do this, I said, is there any way, and this is what I'm most excited about, is there any way inside that signature we can put every name of every manager, walk-on players, support staff, coaches, so all your guys' names for the 15 years I've been the coach is inside that signature, so forever we will be on that court together, and it means a lot.
It was really cool to see some of the former Virginia players standing out on the court. I don't know if any of them got into the TroshLaw.com fast take that is up on Fastlane, Edlane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But London Parentis was there. Anthony Gill was there. Still has some kind of role with Liberty basketball. Please forgive me, I've forgotten it. Malcolm Brogdon was there, among others. 31 players is what they said. 31 former Who's under Tony Bennett were there. Obviously, Coach Richie McKay was not, because he was coaching and TJ Wilkerson was our witness over at Liberty University, specifically this past Sunday, or rather this past Saturday over in Bel Air. But it was the perfect chapter turner for Virginia, because Tony Bennett left with this message that encapsulates his faith. Again, it's free country. You can believe what you want, but I think it's awesome that Tony Bennett is comfortable enough in his Christian faith to be outspoken about it. But also, he says this, and it kind of gives you the idea that he's at peace with it, and Virginia fans should be as well, and they should be comfortable with the change in direction.
Listen, as a head coach, you get way too much credit for when things go well, but you also get too much blame when things don't go well. We know this. But these guys, actually every player that's here was here for 4 or 5 years. They all have their UVA degree. They embody resilience, and they're what's right. So my heart is full. Man, I am overwhelmed by this. My goal always was to honor the Lord as a coach, and I pray that this program and how we did it was a bright light to all of you. I'm so thankful for this. I feel like this is more than I deserve, but we're all in this together. It's about us, never about me. Thank you, guys. I appreciate everyone. Go get them, fellas. Go Hoos. Blessings.
Does that sound like a coach that would want to come back? Not that there's ever a doubt. Like if you're talking about ranking the order of retired or departed coaches that would come back, certainly the old ones, Coach K, Roy Williams, Jim Boeheim, like I think age is at the point where they're not changing. But as far as the younger coaches who stepped away in sports and just said, this thing ain't for me, it feels much more genuine for Tony Bennett than it does for, I don't know, maybe like Bronco and all who's at Virginia and stepped away. I don't think Jay Wright's going to come back. I think he would have his choice of suitors if he ever did. Maybe North Carolina be the one, tempting, enticing one. But of all the coaches that have stepped away, what you heard from Tony Bennett, I think, is he's at peace with it, and Virginia fans can hear that, and they can be at peace with the fact that it is the appropriate turning of a chapter from a great era, as great as it was, to a different era, but the right person who's a better fit for Virginia basketball in the modern era, which clearly is Ryan Odom. If you look at the end of the Tony Bennett era and the lack of results and how quickly Ryan Odom has flipped it around.
Yeah, I think the fact that he stayed out of the light compared to Roy and Coach K tells you all you need to know about where he is as terms of ever returning. I think he's at peace with this.
I absolutely do, TJ. I look at it that way, and Ryan Odom has handled this very well. Anybody knows, I think, secretly, if you're the Virginia administration, I think you have to be aware that you had to turn the page on the Tony Bennett era. Like Tony Bennett's last couple of years, Virginia basketball has still not won a game, and since they won the championship in 2019. Who knows how 2020 worked with COVID, but they missed opportunities to even make it or win games a couple of those years. Some in excruciating close loss fashion, see Furman a couple of years ago, others in more embarrassing, like the game against Ohio, where they lost by like 25 points in the play-in game. Like, they've lost in a couple different manners, where it's clearly emphatic that something had to change structurally with Virginia basketball. But rather than being the coach who came in and said, it didn't work back in the day, we have to do it a different way. I think Ryan Odom, some of this has got to be Coach's dad, the bond that he and Tony Bennett share. But understanding that that's implied in the fact that Tony Bennett stepped away. They did not go with the Bennett family preferred successor of Ron Sanchez, and they should not have. The results last year, as great of a guy as Ron Sanchez may be, the results were clearly indicative that some guys are better as assistants than head coaches, and Ron Sanchez may be that type of guy. No knock on him. Brent Pry may be that guy at Virginia Tech for football. Like, those things happen. But Ryan Odom, the way he's handled it, has been impressive, and I think part of it you can tie back to what he said about the bond that he and Tony Bennett share, about allowing Tony Bennett to have his send-off, have his name on the court, understanding that, and just being so aware of it.
Now we share the coaching bond. Now our fathers have to watch us do it and go crazy. I can't imagine what my dad was doing out there in that game today with all the twists and turns. And, we're very blessed, to have been raised in a basketball family. The ball has done tremendous things for our families, and I wanted to do something. But at its core, it comes down to, it was a coach and his son, and then it was a coach and his father in that photo. And, obviously we're all more than that, but I wanted him to have that. Hopefully he gives it to his dad, and his dad can appreciate that. And his mom, I know his mom will appreciate that, because that was a moment that they shared together, and hopefully they'll appreciate it.
And Ryan Odom's referring to the picture that he gave Tony Bennett, and how he gave Tony Bennett a picture of Tony, consoling and speaking with his dad, Dick Bennett, and how different that was from so many of your championship memory ones, of which I'm sure Tony Bennett would have them somewhere in his house. But it also speaks to the fact that, again, it's a different level of comfort in getting it and understanding it. And I know David Teal, Hall of Famer, has written about this at dailypress.com and by David Teal on his social media platforms, Twitter in particular. to get the link of that. About how Virginia's had the best coaching hire this cycle. And I don't say new coach because by new coach, I would go with a guy like a Jay Lucas or a Luke Laux. To me, that's a different category. They're new coaches, like first time being a head coach, which is a challenging job itself. Ryan Odom has been a head coach before.
Yeah.
You combine that with his family, with his perspective, having grown up around Virginia. It was look, we bagged Carla Williams in a lot of cases, but that one was a home run hire, and it's meshed pretty well from the beginning.
And can you say that this is the highest level he's ever coached at? UMBC, VCU, those are group of 5 conference teams. Now he's coaching at a Power 5 level, if you count the Big East in basketball, and he's doing great. That's why I give it to him over Jai Lucas and Lucas Loud, even because
Luke Laux,
sorry. But that's why I think Ryan Odom deserves Coach of the Year over those guys. I think it's a very close contest, and you can call me biased, but Ryan Odom has coached at every level and won at every level, kind of like Will Wade.
Yeah, I mean, he has. Look, he's been really good at every level, and Will Wade is not as consistently strong a year at NC State. They've been more up and down than Virginia has with Ryan Odom, as the Hoos have only lost 3 games this year and 2 of them in ACC play. So, I mean, they're pretty well spread out. I imagine Virginia will get in a 4th this coming Saturday down in Durham. Are you going to that game, by the way?
Yes, I am actually. I'm going to Durham for Duke and UVA at noon, and then seeing my mom and brothers, and then going to Chapel Hill to watch VT take on Carolina.
Are you serious?
I am.
My man, TJ_Wilkerson 8. That's where you need to keep it this coming weekend for your action on site. Boots on the ground reporting. TJ Wilkerson, who will be our on the ground reporter on site for, as LeBron James would like to remind us,
Not 1,
but 2 basketball games this weekend. Speaking of,
not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4.
but over 4 decades. That's how long Trost Law, they've been serving you since 1982. If you want somebody that's won at different levels and in different ways and different cases, they know how to do it for you. They have been helping with personal injury situations. They understand the complexities of state law. They also understand that every case is different, which is why they'll take the time to, first of all, hear if you have a case and then tell you whether you do or not, because they don't want to waste your time if you don't have one. They want to help you if you do have a case, but they want you to feel empowered before making the decision of who your attorney is going to be. This is not your high pressure, let's get you in no matter what situation. They want to give you the time and courtesy you deserve. That's the difference with Trost Law. Meanwhile, speaking of Virginia basketball, but a different kind,
It's time for Fast 5 at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
kind of impressive over the weekend. Virginia Tech, they trailed at halftime by 1, 32-31 to Georgia Tech. They end up winning that game going away in the second half. Impressive because it keeps momentum going, and it's really big for them to have bounced back. They look kind of sluggish, maybe stung a bit after that loss in overtime to North Carolina on Thursday that you also heard on your home for Lady Hokies basketball, the VTRN Sports app, and 93.3 FM. And to get that, it is okay, how do you handle adversity type moment? It's not a big check in the box against Georgia Tech, but it is a check in the box for them. Meanwhile, a check and an X in
Number 4.
Liberty Lady basketball. We'll get to the men on Wednesday in the fast lane. That's going to be the bulk of what we discuss Wednesday. Good Lord willing, John Manson from MonsierRed.com. We'll also sandwich our coverage, as Bob Alvis of the Sports Fade podcast on high school hoops. We'll sandwich our Liberty basketball coverage. So a lot of Flames Wednesday in the fast lane. No show tomorrow, Tech baseball. But Liberty women's basketball, look, they were riding high. They won 5 of their last 6 games after Thursday's win at Missouri State, 55-43. You wondered if it would catch up to it. It sure felt like it at FIU. 24-0 start for the Panthers. They could just never climb out of that hole. It felt like even when the Flames made a couple of runs here and there, they were never really a threat in that. I could be off in the observation on this, TJ, but that felt like more of at some point it was going to come crashing back down moment. And the key again for Alexis Sherrard is, can they bounce back this weekend over at our favorite spot and avoid it becoming a losing streak, but instead a learning moment?
They have to. You have no choice.
And no doubt. And look, I don't think Liberty is the type of team that I'm expecting to win the Conference USA Women's Basketball Tournament and therefore get a berth to March Madness, but they have made progress under Alexis Sherrard. And that is the type of thing that if you can bounce back from that and have the right showing the next couple of games to wrap up the regular season, even if you do not win the Conference USA Tournament, you can sit there and feel a lot better about the direction of Alexis Sherrard and Liberty basketball, especially compared to the end of January when things were kind of snowballing in the wrong direction. Meanwhile, maybe the most impressive women's basketball win of the weekend goes to
Number 3.
the Virginia Lady Cavaliers, 74-72. The first to 73. Only one got there. It is UVA women's basketball. Am I exaggerating by saying that felt like the most impressive win of the Coach Mox era?
No, you're not over exaggerating. The Lady Hoos, gosh, they are so fun to watch.
They really are. I mean, look, they can shoot from three. Kamora Johnson can score at a number of different levels. They've got balanced scoring now. I know there was pressure because of the increased financial commitment, particularly from Alexis Ohanahan. But they found a way to put that all together. Really good for Virginia women's basketball. Really like seeing that from them over the weekend. That's the type of win, because it's on the road against the top 10 team, that they were kind of in that first four out conversation. That's the type of win now that if they can take care of business, that really resonates come Selection Sunday. More on that with Jerry Ratcliffe in about 5 minutes. But
Number 2.
what we'll discuss around 5:45 today in the Fast Lane, the second half of covering the Commonwealth. 2 parts for Virginia Tech. One, sad news. Former Virginia Tech defensive back Ronyell Whitaker passed away. No cause of death was listed. It was the second sports-related death over the weekend. The other one was Rondale Moore, who by all accounts passed away from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Nobody said it, but when the NFLPA releases the statement saying if you're struggling with mental health, that's kind of the silent way of saying here's the cause of death. By the way, I think that's in good taste to put that type of comment out there when you add on, when you don't say what happened, but you say if somebody's struggling with mental health. And by the way, I don't know what happened with Ronyell Whitaker. Let's be clear on that. I have not heard any specifics on that. More information might come out no matter what it's said. But to the Ronyell Whitaker side to the Rondale Moore side of things, because there's 2 unfortunate passings over the weekend. Ronyell Whitaker, great trash talker, really a guy that seemed to mature into himself by a lot of people's accounts as he grew up as a person, which, again, maybe not the most mature player, but mature as a person who grew older. It's kind of what you expect. And maybe the example that people are not their most mature, younger in life, but can grow and be better over the course of time. The Rondale Moore one, though, to wrap that part up is, I like the fact, you don't like anybody taking their own life, but I like the fact that rather than just saying no cause has been identified and that's what it was, people saying, so-and-so, passed away suddenly. And it just ends if somebody struggling with mental health. It's the great reminder that we all need. We all hit tough patches in our lives. I'm a believer in spiritual consultation as well with church groups. St. John's Episcopal Church is where I go. Impact Church, think the world of them as well. Consult with those people. They're great experts and people that can help you during this time. I know you may have others out there, and that's totally cool. But I think it's a right way to handle this rather than pretending like we can't talk about it. Instead, we're getting more comfortable talking about it, and hopefully there are fewer instances of this so that therefore the people we don't hear about are the people that got the help and got their lives turned around. That would be encouraging. By the way, there is no smooth way to transition from that to
Number 1.
Mike Young saying that Jalen Bedford could apply for a medical red shirt to get an extra year of eligibility this offseason. And Sincere Jones confirmed to be out for the season for the Hokies. I don't think any of these are overarchingly a surprise. Players are doing this more often than before, looking for extra years of medical eligibility if they can get them for Jalen Bedford. And we've seen the NCAA, the Trinidad Chambliss case is just the latest, where their interpretation of medical eligibility is different. I've always thought it's kind of ridiculous that football has the 4-game redshirt rule, but in basketball, if you play one play or step onto the court for one, period of action, you can't redshirt. Say what? That makes no sense. Like, you can play 4 games in college football and count as a real or medical redshirt. And if you're in college basketball, you play 1 game. Even if, I'm going to go extreme for examples here. If you play for Liberty and you get on the floor against Mid-Atlantic Christian, sorry to the folks at Mid-Atlantic Christian, but they're a great example here. That still counts against your eligibility. That is absolutely ridiculous. And the NCAA, it is another classic example of their archaic line of excuse making. I will not call it thinking because it's not thinking to think that way. But for Virginia Tech, I don't blame them for trying to get an extra year, particularly for Jalen Bedford. Meanwhile, when we return to the Fast Lane, more on your teams and topics. UVA, JMU to kick off covering the Commonwealth. Then Tech, NASCAR in the back half of that. When we return here on the VTRN Sports app, ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
On the Sheeler Motor Mile, your trusted dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for over 50 years. With more selection, more value, and more finance options. Plus, your trade is worth more. Shop local and save more with straightforward pricing, plus exceptional service and selection. Your search ends at the Motor Mile. Choose from over 900 quality pre-owned vehicles, plus a massive selection of new car brands in Southwest Virginia. Honda, Hyundai, Toyota, Subaru, Kia, Chevrolet, Mitsubishi, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and now Buick. Plus, the used car superstore. 12 new car brands, 900 used vehicles, one amazing buying experience. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got more than any other dealer in the area. The Sheeler Motor Mile delivers choices. Here's the difference. Sheeler owns the finance company and makes getting approved for credit simple and easy on the Motor Mile. Flexible financing options for every budget to get you on the road fast. Get more on the Sheeler Motor Mile with a certified friendly staff and no games, no gimmicks. The Sheeler Motor Mile, now in Christiansburg, Radford, and Pulaski. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com.
Looking for the perfect start to your day or an afternoon pick-me-up? Swing by Buttercup and Friends Cafe, your friendly Boonesboro Road food truck. From craft lattes with house-made simple syrups to sweet treats and comforting bites, there's something for you. It's the perfect spot to grab something delicious and bring a friend, your appetite, and come see why people are coming back to Buttercup and Friends Cafe, 6103 Boonesboro Road, across from the BP gas station in Lynchburg. Open 7:30 to 3:30 Monday through Saturday.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrack Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
Are you tired of static? Wish you could take your favorite Virginia radio stations with you wherever you go? Then you need to discover the power of streaming. That's right. You can now easily listen to the Virginia Talk Radio Network for insightful discussions and local news.
From the VTRN News Center, I'm Bill Trefiro.
And groove to classic hits on Rewind 1039. All from your smartphone, tablet, or computer. No more fiddling with the dial. Just download your favorite radio app. Search for Virginia Talk Radio Network or Rewind 1039, and you're ready to go. Stay connected with your community.
Good morning. This is Kimberly McBroom in the WDBJ 7 Newsroom with our Virginia Talk Radio Network news update.
And enjoy the music you love anytime, anywhere.
Every move you make.
Streaming the Virginia Talk Radio Network and Rewind 1039. It's that easy. Virginia Talk Radio Network. Rewind 1039. Now streaming.
Hey gang, this is Bud Foster, former defensive coordinator for the Virginia Tech Hokies. Join me for Foster and Friends, Saturday 9 to 10 a.m. on VTRN Sports 93.3 FM.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
2 ways to look at the action that's taken place this past weekend. We get to do that right now in one of your favorite segments.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Duke.
Shane Metlin of DNRonline.com and at Shane_DNR Sports is with us once again here in the Fast Lane. Shane, great to be speaking with you. JMU Lady Dukes basketball, they torched Appalachian State a couple of days ago. They've now got 7 straight victories. We touched on this last week, but is it worth reemphasizing even more that standings-wise, they may not be near the top of the Sun Belt Conference, but in terms of teams you don't want to play right now, wise, are they high in that ranking?
Yeah, I think so, and it's like we said last week. You know, that they got 4 losses right now, which most years has traditionally kind of been enough to win the Sun Belt. You know, outside of last year where JMU went undefeated, but there's 5 really good teams in the Sun Belt right now. JMU's playing as well as any of them at this point, and yeah, I think they're where they want to be heading towards the tournament. Other than the fact getting to that 4 seed line has been a little bit of a challenge because they're just not quite getting the losses elsewhere to let them do that. And it's a big difference because I think winning 3 games in 3 days is very doable for this team. But if you're playing that 4th game on the 4th day and it gets a team that's more rested, then it becomes a little tricky.
Chip on their shoulder. Is that a reasonable way to say that they've been playing, particularly the caliber of defense that they have turned out? Because other than Southern Miss, nobody's cracked 60 during this winning streak.
Yeah, and Southern Miss is a pretty good offensive team. But yeah, I think chip on the shoulder, maybe that, or maybe it was just a point in the season where they recognized where they were and that it was about time to turn it on. I think some of the players that have been back from last year, they do go undefeated in regular season. Last year, don't make the NCAA tournament. I think to a certain degree, there was a little bit of that mentality of we don't necessarily have to turn it on yet in December and January, whether that was conscious or not. But right now, they're playing like a team that's really motivated to do what they need to do.
Yeah, JMU Dukes basketball, they have been playing really well. The Lady Dukes have. Meanwhile, men's basketball right now, are you impressed with what we've seen over the last 4 games for the JMU Dukes? They've been riding a really solid winning streak now for the majority of the month of February, or does it get the JoJo treatment? I'll bet you didn't expect a cheesy pop reference today in the fast lane, Shane, but does it get that treatment in the sense that they're winning these games, but they're still buried toward the back half of the Sun Belt?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it does because the Sun Belt is so jumbled on the men's side. Yeah, they are technically in the back half right now, but if they win these next 2 games, it's not inconceivable they could finish seeded 5th. But at the same time, it's not inconceivable there could be a 7-way tie for first in the Sun Belt, and it doesn't include JMU. That's just how tightly bunched everything is right now. We're really not going to know what that tournament bracket looks like until the end of this week.
Well, the other thing about this is it's not like they're beating atrocious teams during this stretch. I know Georgia State has not been a very good program, but Coastal and Appalachian State have been solid. Are you convinced yet that Preston Spradlin's team is the type that could be the no one wants to play them team in the tournament, or do they still need a little more work, particularly against the more established teams in the conference?
No, I think they're in that category. I think the issue is there's probably 10 of those teams in the Sun Belt right now. It's a really, really balanced league, and I think JMU's getting it together. You just wonder if it's in time because, like we talked about that bracket, you put yourself in a hole if you're not seated in the top 4. Top 5 or 6 definitely helps too, but and like we mentioned for JMU, they could really be anywhere from maybe around 5 to maybe around 11 or 12 at this point.
Shane_DNR Sports and DNRonline.com are the ways to connect with Shane Metlin of the Harrisonburg Daily News Record, who's with us in the fast lane. Shane, great to be speaking with you. We greatly appreciate your time. Thank you so much for making a moment to join us and talk a little Lady Dukes and Men's Dukes basketball.
All right, thanks for having me, Ed.
Now to UVA.
With JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. He is so gifted at media. He has, as LeBron will remind us,
Not one,
but 2 shows that he does. One with Jerry Miller, the other with Jeff Jones, and somehow he finds time to join us in the fast lane. Jerry, first of all, we appreciate your joining peons like us here in the fast lane. Second of all, and maybe more importantly, what a weekend it was for Virginia on grounds, particularly the Tony Bennett celebration and all the pomp and circumstance that surround it for Virginia basketball.
Yeah, it was a beautiful moment for Wahoo fans, Ed, as you witnessed, and I thought they did a terrific job in honoring him and the court unveiling. It was just like Tony Bennett, for those who aren't aware, that one of his demands about that, as modest as he is, was to share that honor with all the players and all the coaches who had formerly played or coached under him. somehow I haven't looked at the logo up close and personal, but somehow they embedded all those names in his signature on the court, which is something that you would expect from Tony Bennett, because he would never be the guy to take all the credit for all the great things he did for UVA basketball.
It was one of the coolest things to see. What was your impression of how Ryan Odom seems so comfortable in his skin? Maybe being a coach's son helps. Maybe the implicit reality that Tony Bennett, the results weren't really there at the end, and he seemed like he was burned out. But that Ryan Odom was more than gracious enough to let Tony Bennett have the spotlight on this day, and frankly has been willing to take a backseat whenever Bennett enters the picture.
Yeah, I think that's just part of who Ryan Odom is, and I think he inherits a lot of that from his father Dave, who was a lot like Ryan in so many ways. I think he learned from being a coach's son the respect that goes along with various programs and how to conduct yourself and how you should treat some of your fellow coaches. And I think that that he understood what a big moment that was for Virginia's basketball program and its history, and was just happy to be part of it. Tony actually advised Ryan to keep his team in the locker room and focus more on the game, which was a huge game, by the way, with Miami, and Ryan said he wanted his players to be out there so they could absorb part of Virginia's history and learn what Virginia basketball was all about. So I can't say that I was overly surprised that he was out there and played a big role in the program.
JerryRatcliffe.com is the way to connect with him, as Hootie is with us here in the Fast Lane. Hootie, is it also maybe the most appropriate way that Virginia basketball, not that they weren't already with the hiring of Ryan Odom, but this ceremony can officially mark the turning of the page, shifting from the Tony Bennett chapter to the modern era basketball chapter of Ryan Odom, and appropriately he christened it by an 86-83 very un-Tony Bennett-like victory over Miami.
Yeah, I mean, that's a heck of a way to start your career at Virginia. He's already up to 23 wins. I think just about anybody would have, or 24 wins rather. I think just about any Virginia fan, if you'd have mentioned that before the season, they would have taken that and not asked any questions. And he has a chance to build on that with 4 more regular season games left and then postseason. But wow, I mean, yeah, you're right. I think that definitely is turning the page to another chapter in Wahoo history, and what a great chapter it's been so far.
Hootie, we've touched on Virginia men's basketball quite a bit. We'll have a chance to look ahead to that this weekend. Our own TJ Wilkerson will be down there, as he'll be doing 2 games in one day Saturday, starting with Virginia at Duke. But Virginia women's basketball, 74-72 victory at Louisville yesterday, knocking off the number 8 Cardinals. Is it unreasonable to say that's the biggest victory of the Coach Mox era?
Oh, no question about it. Knocking off the number 8 team in the country on the road in an arena where Louisville had only previously lost one of its last 67 or 68 games against unranked teams. So, yeah, that was a huge moment for women's basketball, and that's their most wins in a season. I guess they have 19 wins now, and 11 ACC wins. It's their most successful season so far since 1999-2000. So this is what they needed coming in to kind of take the pressure off. It struggled the previous 2 or 3 years in trying to get the program turned around, and it's definitely headed in the right direction. And they host North Carolina on Thursday night, a team that's 1 game ahead of them in the ACC standings for third place, a tie for third place. So they put themselves in position to do something here at the end of the season.
Indeed, they have. It has changed the complexion of Lady Wahoo basketball and maybe puts them in the spot to make the tournament as well. Hootie, will you make our dynamic list for covering the Commonwealth every Monday? We are grateful that you give us that time. Thank you for joining us in the Fast Lane.
Glad to be with you, Ed. We'll see you soon, brother. We'll see TJ sooner, I guess.
Yes, you will. You'll get to be graced by a much more wonderful presence than mine this past Saturday, although I did enjoy catching up with you and look forward to more on that off-the-air discussions.
Absolutely.
TJ Wilkerson will be there this Saturday, by the way, as a refresher. Meanwhile, that was Jerry Ratcliffe. And the cool soundbite, by the way, this was Chance Mallory describing what it was like to play on Tony Bennett court for the first time.
It was cool to see something different on the court for one time. But yeah, like I said before, it was cool to see all the names written down on there. Like I could see, like even playing, I was looking down and seeing all the past people I was growing up watching. So it was pretty cool.
Quite the vision then to be able to turn right back and do his job without turning the ball over after all that. But it is kind of funny. And we've got the video up. The first tee, the bottom part of the first tee in Bennett is where you can find Richie McKay's name. If you're a Flames fan wondering where that is, shout out again, a hat tip to Bryson Gordon of newsadvance.com as he was the first to point that out at Fastlane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. When we return, we'll touch on NASCAR at Atlanta, Eric Schneck, his debut from frontstretch.com, and then David Cunningham on the Virginia Tech Hokies. Busy weekend, lots of winning done in Blacksburg, including in front of our very own TJ Wilkerson. So we discuss all of that next. VTRN Sports app. Ask that smart speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Feller Chevrolet is now Apple Chevrolet. While the name's changed, we're still the same trusted Fellers team. Same management, same knowledgeable parts and service, same techs, same professional sales staff. With over 200 years of collective experience, we'll continue growing stronger alongside our community. From the newest Chevrolets to top quality pre-owned vehicles, Apple Chevrolet delivers the same unmatched customer service. Visit us at driveapple.com. Apple Chevrolet of Alta Vista, powered by the community we serve.
At the Farmers Bank of Appomattox, we believe personal banking should be as rooted in the community as you are. Whether managing your business banking, saving for your family's dream home, or juggling daily expenses with our mobile app, we offer tailored solutions with a local touch. Experience the security of a bank that knows your name and the convenience of modern technology. Visit us today to grow your financial future right here at home. The Farmers Bank of Appomattox, your community, your bank, your future.
What do high-performing athletes have in common? They don't just train their bodies, they train their minds. The best competitors have a strong mental support system that keeps them focused, confident, and at the top of their game. Want that same support in your own life? Central Virginia Counseling can help. No matter what life throws your way, our team is here for you with 2 Lynchburg locations on Wigington Road and Timberlake Road and telehealth available anywhere in Virginia. Take the first step today. Visit centralvirginiacounseling.com.
Hey, small to medium business owners, if you're frustrated with slow IT support, high costs, or paying for services you just don't use, it's time for a change. Hi, I'm Colt with We Fix Stupid Computers. We provide reliable on-site and remote support tailored for businesses just like yours. And we go beyond just fixing problems. We empower your staff with real tech knowledge so they can work smarter every day. From repairs to training to full IT support, we save you time, stress, and money. Call We Fix Stupid Computers, 434-525-8590, where smart support meets real savings.
A cool food concept sparks curiosity. What about 2 concepts at one restaurant? That's even better. Oliver's on Rivermont is Lynchburg's first multi-concept restaurant. Pick items from the traditional Oliver's menu, the 801 Raw Bar menu, or mix and match. And you'll appreciate the consistency of Oliver's new kitchen and serving staff. 2 cool concepts in one. Only available at Oliver's on Rivermont.
Gerrymandering has been a problem in American politics for generations. District lines drawn to protect power, reward insiders, and weaken competition. Virginians are right to be frustrated. That's why the April 21st referendum sounds appealing. It promises reform. It promises fairness. But when you read the fine print, it doesn't deliver what it advertises. The amendment would create a redistricting commission, but not an independent one. Half of it would be made up of sitting legislators. The very people whose districts are on the line would have a hand in shaping them. That's not taking politics out of redistricting. That's institutionalizing it. If the commission can't agree, the responsibility shifts to the Virginia Supreme Court. That moves a deeply political issue into the judiciary and risks further politicizing our courts. Changing the Constitution is permanent. It's not something we do casually or based on slogans. If we're going to reform redistricting, it should be done with full independence, clear anti-gerrymandering standards, and meaningful public accountability. Virginians deserve a system where communities are kept intact, competition is encouraged, and voters, not politicians, decide elections. This amendment doesn't go far enough. It risks locking in a flawed compromise for decades. On April 21st, send a clear message. We want real reform, not political repackaging. Vote no on the gerrymandering referendum. This is an editorial from the Virginia Talk Radio Network.
True Balance is staying frozen. And now through March 2nd at InsaneRadioDeals.com, the deals are frozen. 32% off the list price of every item, where we let go of every item, like Crosswide Athletic Club memberships, Aquatrek Adventures experiences, BNC Sports gift certificates, and Rise Up Climbing day passes or 1-month memberships. So get 32% off the list price of every item now through March 2nd at InsaneRadioDeals.com when you enter the promo code FROZEN at checkout. Normal restrictions still apply.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
He's making his debut. First-time guest, possibly last-time guest if we offend him, but we're going to go ahead and give it the old college try anyway here in part 2 of
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with NASCAR.
coming in hot, just like 2311 Racing to start this season at Atlanta. I refuse to call it by the auto dealership since they are not. You know, if it was Motor Mile Speedway from our friends at Sheeler Motor Mile, I would absolutely mention that that's the case. But I will just say from Atlanta and at not Sheeler Motor Mile Speedway is where Tyler Reddick got his second victory of the win yesterday. Eric Schneck of FrontStretch.com and the Stock Car Scoop podcast that I should remember because I listened to this morning while I was getting my run in. Eric joins us in the Fast Lane. Great to be speaking with you, Eric. Thank you for making a bit of time for us today here in the Fast Lane. Boy, it's been, as much as NASCAR has had a rough last couple of months, 2311 Racing, it feels like they're in the opposite direction, right?
First and foremost, you guys will have to try pretty hard to offend me. So I think we will be A-okay there. But yes, 2311 has been scorching this season so far. Tyler Reddick going back-to-back, the first driver to do so since Matt Kenseth did it in 2009. And 2311 has both of their top drivers, Tyler Reddick and Bubba Wallace, on top of the point standings right now. So from lawsuit to the hottest team in NASCAR, 2311 is on fire.
So there are a number of angles to unpack for this. It's just tapered spacers. So while I've seen Tyler Reddick succeed elsewhere, are we in, pun intended fully here, pump the brakes mode on him being maybe not a championship favored, but the championship favored, because we've still got to see a chunk of the season unfold at different disciplines, starting at Circuit of the Americas this coming weekend?
You are dead on the money on that. Now, what's scary, though, is Tyler Reddick is also a very accomplished road course racer. Now, going into Circuit of the Americas, all eyes will be on Shane Van Gisbergen and the new wonder kid of the circuit, Connor Village. But Tyler Reddick is also an incredibly skilled road course racer, so it would not surprise me to see him go 3 for 3. And if he does that, then Lord, even though there is 30-some races left, he has to be the championship favorite, but we'll see after Sunday.
So we mentioned the we'll see part after Sunday for Tyler Reddick. The other equation to this, and Eric Schneck of FrontStretch.com is joining us in the Fast Lane, is that Tyler Reddick's teammate Bubba Wallace has had a couple of opportunities but has not been able to capitalize on them. Different system, I know, rewards points, But is there a concern because Bubba historically is not liked and has not done well at road course races? Or is he in a different frame of mind, particularly with the confidence of 2311 Racing and the system changes of maybe if you just weather the storm at a place like COTA, you're still going to be fine big picture?
I think Bubba is A-OK. He is a very accomplished tapered spacer drafting racer. However, he is also insanely talented in the mile and a half, which is the bulk of the NASCAR schedule, which we haven't seen yet this season. So once those mile and a half come around, Bubba Wallace should be a threat to win each Sunday.
Meanwhile, is the biggest news of all of this for NASCAR's hot season start the fact that Michael Jordan has gotten screen time and has come across as genuinely a fan of this NASCAR thing, not just your celebrity owner?
It's incredible that he is he's definitely the most known basketball player in the world, but definitely top 5 most known celebrity in the world. I would say definitely top 5 athlete in the world. And he loves NASCAR, loves it, genuinely, truly loves it, passionate about it in and out. NASCAR is truly, truly lucky to have such a visible owner and such a passionate owner like Michael Jordan.
It is big for NASCAR, much like it's big for frontstretch.com that they can now count on Eric Schneck for his insight, and he is generous enough to have shared that with us today in the Fast Lane. Eric, appreciate your making time for us today. I pray very much so that this is not at the top of our prayer list, but that you are not scared off from joining us again.
I am here whenever you boys need me.
Oh, prayers answered today in the Fast Lane. That's the one that we needed. Meanwhile,
and last but not least, or maybe least, the Virginia Tech Hokies.
David Cunningham of TechSideline.com is with us once again here in the Fast Lane. Tech Sideline, social media platforms, the website, however you consume podcasts. We are at Fast Lane Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live and YouTube. David, thank you for joining us in the Fast Lane. Before we narrow down, how big of a weekend was it for Virginia Tech? Baseball had the walk-off win Saturday and a great call by former TSL alum Evan Hughes on that. I listened to that on my way back from Charlottesville after Liberty's press conference had ended. Then you've got softball getting a sweep at Georgia, women's basketball, a nice bounce-back victory against Georgia Tech, and the men picking up a much-needed win against Wake Forest.
Yeah, Ed, it was a great weekend for Virginia Tech athletics, and on top of that, Virginia Tech wrestling on Friday night beat Duke to clinch the ACC regular season championship outright, finished the season undefeated. Pretty good weekend across the board for Virginia Tech. Baseball, despite some snow on Sunday, clinched the series. They got boat race 16-1 on Friday, and then needed to go to the 10th, hit 3 straight home runs essentially to beat Rutgers in the 10th on Saturday, and then on Sunday they won 4-3. Softball, 2 pretty huge wins. They won 4 games over ranked opponents this year, all SEC teams. They swept Georgia, and you look at the hardwood, man. I thought the Virginia Tech women, they didn't have their best stuff on Sunday against Georgia Tech, but they got it done. They had a really huge run between the third and fourth quarters, 22-2 over 10 minutes. That'll win you some basketball games. And as a result, Ed, they go into this final game against Virginia. They've got a week off here and then head to Charlottesville for Commonwealth Clash Part 2. And the Virginia Tech men, I thought this was one of their more complete games of the season. The trick is, okay, you beat Wake Forest pretty handily. You played really well. Neoclis Adalas looked like himself again. But you've got to keep it going. And it's a tall task on Saturday against probably Caleb Wilson less North Carolina, but still a really talented team in the Tar Heels. So good weekend, still a lot more to come.
There is a lot more to come. We will start with men's basketball. That's the big headline grabber. Then we'll progress accordingly with David Cunningham of TechSideline.com for men's basketball for Virginia Tech. They've got their work cut out for them, especially after another heartbreaking loss at Miami earlier this week. They've got all week for North Carolina. Do you anticipate that they will put their best foot forward and give the Caleb Wilson less Tar Heels a game and maybe even steal a much-needed victory to boost their ever-fading tournament chances?
I think so, Ed. I truly do. I think this team has played pretty good basketball. But what it is going to have to do, it's going to have to close out that game. If it is in that game, it's going to have to close it out. And I think you've seen the Hokies play well enough at times whether it's beating Clemson and playing one of their best basketball games of the season. You go all the way back to New Year's Eve, beating Virginia. They outplayed SMU on the road. I thought in many cases they outplayed Miami on the road this past weekend. They have proven that on paper they are a tournament team, but it goes back to you have to be able to close out games. They did not against Miami, but I thought you saw, especially of Dallas, look really comfortable, really confident, really aggressive against Wake Forest. I thought they played really well together. And defensively, I thought they were pretty good too. Wake Forest made its first 4 threes, went 2 for 24 for the rest of the game. The Hokies will take that. But at the same time, you've got to turn the page, and it's a little bit of a different look in terms of North Carolina being a much different team than anybody else in the conference. I know Caleb Wilson's out. Visar is a really, really talented player in the post and looks like he's going to play. Virginia Tech has its hands full, but I think the Hokies will be okay. Now, whether or not they can steal it is another question. I think they will be competitive. I think they'll hang tough. But what they have to do, Ed, is they have to be better on the glass. I thought Wake Forest exposed them in some areas there. The real question is, can they get Tyler Johnson back? If they get Tyler Johnson back, and Mike Young said it's trending that way, not just making up stuff, it's legitimately trending that way. If they can get him back, you put him as a rebounder there from that 3 spot, I think it boosts Virginia Tech's rebounding a lot. That's much needed in this game against North Carolina.
Now we pivot to Lady Hokies basketball. It was disappointing for those listening on their home for Virginia Tech Athletics, the VTRN Sports app, and 93.3 FM Lynchburg on Thursday because of the overtime loss to North Carolina. How important was it, though, that it wasn't pretty early, but the Hokies, Lady Hokies, found a way to bounce back against Georgia Tech and not let that be the type of hangover loss that derails their postseason efforts?
Yeah, I thought it was big. You've got a game in North Carolina where I don't want to say you're playing with house money a little bit, but your tournament is essentially already secure as long as you don't slip up against Georgia Tech on Sunday. And they didn't. But in that North Carolina game, I thought the Hokies were the better team for long stretches of the game. It was a rugged, grinded-out game. I thought you saw their defense on full display. When it came down to it, they just needed a little bit more. I thought you saw them, how well they can play. They played well at times this year. They should have beaten Notre Dame a couple weeks ago, right? But they haven't been necessarily consistent as much as they should be against some of the bigger teams. North Carolina, I thought you saw it. Even though they lost by a possession, I thought it was still a good game from them. Karis Baker had a look in the corner for 3 at the buzzer that would have tied it, and I thought it was a pretty good look, all things considered. That's a building block. And I thought you saw them turn the page pretty effectively on Sunday. It was ugly against Georgia Tech, but they played really well. They and by that I mean they didn't shoot the ball well because both teams shot between 28 and 29%. But I thought you saw them dig deep and figure it out defensively. And they had a quarter where they only shot 16% in the third, yet somehow they pulled away from the Yellow Jackets. That tells you that they were doing the right things on the defensive end. And I think they've got a really good opportunity to boost their resume even more. I think, in my opinion, they're already in the tournament. They're locked. But they've got an opportunity to boost their resume even more on Sunday at UVA, what a Q1 win on the road would do. Obviously, Virginia, obviously Clemson, big weekend for the ACC in that regard. So the Hokies, I think, are on the right path. They're looking at a single bye in the ACC tournament, which is pretty solid, and I think they could go down there and win a game or two.
They could. Meanwhile, we'll pivot off of those sports to spring sports. Virginia Tech Lady Hokies softball. They were ranked. They've now got impressive victories over SEC teams, the latest being a sweep on the road at Georgia over the weekend. Are they vaulting themselves into the type of team that, I know we've got the whole ACC regular season to go, but could be playing themselves into being one of the favorites in the conference?
I think so. I think they bounced back in the right manner, Ed. They went down to Charlotte last weekend and did not play well. They split 4 games, went 2-2, and I thought they came back with the right mindset, mentality. If you watched either or listened to either of those games, against Georgia, they played really, really tough. They played fearless. They were not afraid. They came out and really handed it to the Bulldogs in both games. And they've got some young pitching stepping up. They've got some young bats stepping up. They're seeing the ball really, really well. And I thought you saw that show up in both games and across the entire weekend. And if they can continue to build on this going forward, it's still very, very early in the season. They've got, I believe, a big weekend coming up at Auburn. But if they can continue to build on it, Ed, I think you're going to look at this team and go, man, they can be one of the top teams in the ACC this year, even though it seemed like at the beginning of the year it was kind of, well, there's a lot of new faces, and Pete Demore has to figure out, what players fit where and what's best. And I think they figured it out a lot this weekend.
David Cunningham, he's at the Real D Cunna on Twitter and Instagram and with TechSideline.com here in the Fast Lane. David, last one for you. Liberty press conference wraps up on Saturday. I got to listen to TJ ask great questions about the Flames' 94-73 loss to Western Kentucky. And then I got to listen on the VTRN Sports app to TSL, TechSideline.com alum and podcast host, the first one, Evan Hughes, make the call for those 3 home runs, including Ethan Ball's walk-off home run. They backed it up with a 4-3 victory. Not pretty in the snow yesterday. How crucial was that sequence for Virginia Tech baseball, trying to reverse some of that mojo from last year?
Ed, do you remember the other day, last week, when we were talking and I said, it was probably your fault that Virginia Tech lost that Florida State game because you were there? And
of course.
I said that to Trey.
Of course.
Well, guess what time I showed up to English Field the other day after men's basketball? That would be the start of the 9th inning, and Virginia Tech won the game from there. So I'm not going to give myself too much credit, but I did show up right just on time, I think. No, I thought it was a really gutsy, impressive weekend for Virginia Tech. They did not play well at all on Friday, lost 16-1 in 8. Just a really bad performance. But they bounced back. They were up on the ropes on Saturday. They're down 5-3 in the 9th inning. They get 2 runs. They essentially walk the bases loaded, and then were tough enough in their at-bats to get walks, to draw walks, to get home. And they tie up the game, and then they went down 3 more runs. They go down 8-5 and really have to gut it out, grind it out. And I thought you saw some really impressive at-bats by a lot of these young guys that we have not really gotten to know yet because they're only in the second weekend of the year. And I thought Evan's call of that ball home run was terrific, but it was also the 3 at-bats before that really set the plate for that and got the Hokies within striking position. And anytime you can kind of use that momentum into Sunday, where I thought they pitched really well and it was cold and snowy and they fought the elements, fought Rutgers and played really well and came away with a series win. And I think that's something that you can build on as you go along into the season. That is a gutsy weekend performance. Even though it didn't start well, it finished really well.
Glad to know we're not overstating it with David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. And David, I will pray for you very much so that Will Stewart is founder of TechSideline.com is ready to pay for Tommy John surgery after straining your arm, giving yourself a pat on the back for your contributions to Hokies baseball.
Yeah, apparently I was the magic key, Ed. I tell you what, that was a very fun atmosphere, even though it was very, very cold.
It was very cold, but listening to it it warmed my heart listening to Evan Hughes on the call of it. And it was so exciting. I would imagine people in the ballpark might have been able to hear it as well. David, we hear your insight regularly on the Tech Sideline podcast, and you see it often at TechSideline.com, including the article that we touched on in the Fast Five at 5-ish about Sincere Jones, as well as the future of Jalen Bedford, because David asked it today in the ACC basketball teleconference. David, thank you for all the time today in the Fast Lane. We greatly appreciate it. We tie it up with a very long-winded goodbye for now.
Appreciate it. I'll talk to you next week.
David Cunningham with us in the Fast Lane. And, of course, as I go way over time here on W227 BG Chevrolet, WVGM Aim Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna Danville Southside, now on to not one, but 2 basketball games tonight, as we've got Louisville at North Carolina in Big Monday. Carolina alum Danny Green, I believe, will be on the call for Compass Media Networks for that. And then, can Houston avoid the losing streak, or will Kansas lose another home game in a row? Find out as the second game of our doubleheader. Big night of hoops leads you into March Madness on your home for March Madness, including the ACC and NCAA tournaments, the VTR and Sports app, and 93.3 FM. Now on to the remainder of Freddie and Harry in progress.
That need to be had with Karl Anthony Towns.